Du, Schatz, ich gönn mir heute mal ein Wohlfühlpaket. Mal wieder so richtig auftanken. Perfekter Glanz, schonende Pflege und dazu ein Cappuccino. Ist das okay für dich?
Klar, Schatz. Bringst du mir ein Bier mit?
Jetzt bei Shell tanken und bis zu 50% Rabatt auf die Autowäsche erhalten. Vom 4.4. bis 3.7.2018. An allen teilnehmenden Shell-Stationen.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition, this program, all about your Kundalini. My name is Chrism, and I'm going to jump right into this right now. Here we go. So I was surprised to find out that some people think that the Kundalini is radioactive, and they're actually spreading it around. These people are coming on TED Talks and elephant interviews and radio shows, and they're doing everything they can do to warn people away from the Kundalini because they feel that it is radioactive. And I just need to really clear that up right now. Kundalini is not radioactive. Radiation in the sense of nuclear fission has nothing to do with the Kundalini, and this is being spread by people that don't have the Kundalini. They're being told something, and they're kind of spreading this disinformation around the internet and trying to keep people away through a tactic of fear from coming into the Kundalini. And I want to be very clear for people that have the Kundalini. I've had a Kundalini for 28 years now, and it's not radioactive. I don't stand next to a Geiger counter and listen to it going off. Okay? I'm allowed on airplanes, and matter of fact, I just got off an airplane just a few days ago. And Kundalini is not radioactive, and you need to be really clear on that fact. And I'm gonna, to some degree, I want to go through some of these misinformations that people are putting out, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It is what they're doing, and they're sharing it across Facebook, across Google Plus, Pinterest, Twitter. They're sharing this falsehood. I mean, I don't know why they're doing this, but I guess their teacher or what the person that I guess they hold into some sort of teaching authority with them has told them that in some way they are under a radioactive type of situation, and it's just not so. And people need to understand that. So there you have it. Kundalini is not radioactive, and it will not cause you any kind of radiation sickness. It is something that's dormant within our body already. So it's not something that we really need to worry about as far as it affecting us in a negative context. So understand that, and understand that Kundalini is happening to people every day. I am such an unknown person on the internet, and yet even with my lack of public knowledge about this, with the people that come to me about this, it's a very measurable point of clarity within the population that Kundalini is here. It is awakening in this population, and we need to understand that it's not going to go away just because somebody's giving misinformation on it. Okay, it's very important for people to understand that even though people are having misinformation upon it, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be there anyway. In other words, people can tell you, all day long that the sun is not going to come up. Okay, they can tell you, well, hey, the sun is radioactive, and it's got a lot of helium going on and hydrogen, and it's really detrimental to the human body, and so you don't want to have it. You don't want it to let it touch you. It's necessary for you to live in a cave, underground, inside of a building, but never go outside, because if the sun shines on you, it will kill you. We all know that this is not true. We know this is false. And yet, there are people out there that would spread that kind of disinformation in order to elicit a fear response in people. And this is what's happening with Kundalini, is that some people who have not had the experience themselves have decided that it's a detrimental thing to have the Kundalini begin to be awakened. And so it's very important for people to understand that, because in the last 3 vertebrae of our tailbone, we house the unawakened Kundalini all our lives, we know for a fact that it is not a detriment to the human condition. We know for a fact, or everybody would be dead, or in some way distorted, or put into a figure or a position of fear, because the Kundalini was so bad, and it's just not that way. People need to understand that. And so I had this person came onto one of my groups the other day, and really came out with 10 facts of Kundalini, facts on the illusions, dangers, and truths of Kundalini fire. And this person spread this on the Daily Mail, on the Post, on the Sunday Times, West Australian Elephant, all these different radio stations that this person's been on, and they're basically spreading the worst, the absolute worst fear teachings, lies. Basically, you've got to call it what it is, and these are not true. And they're spreading this all over the place, and of course, because it's a fear teaching, the popular press will want to pick it up, and because it's a popular press, they're going to push that fear teaching out there, because people tend to, they gravitate towards fearful types of information sources in order to not go there. Oh, Kundalini, well, we heard it's this, and that, and it's radioactive, and it's all these other things, and well, we don't want to do that. And so, people will look at that and read that, and do everything they can do not to accept or to go into the awakening Kundalini environment, because of the fear posture that this person and these people are putting out there. And I'm telling you that it is not true. It is a lie. Kundalini is not damaging to the individual. It's the resistance to the Kundalini by a person that can be hurtful. Kundalini is a very, very natural thing. And, they go through all the things that we've discussed in this program in past shows that indicate, some of the properties of the Kundalini, some of the expressions that the Kundalini can bring upon a person, such as the spontaneous movements or convulsions that are very, very, very common to the Kundalini expression. And these are called kriyas, and they do happen to most of the people that have the Kundalini, and they're not painful unless a person's resisting them. And even then, they're not that painful. Some people get it very mildly. Yes, there are some people that get it very, very heavily. And, they're in these yoga positions. The body is forced into a yoga position for a certain amount of time until that person's individual Kundalini and karma begin to balance out within themselves. And this is natural. This is a natural process. It's as natural as any of the other human conditions, like puberty. It's as natural as puberty. You go from a falsetto, childlike voice for a male, for a man, and when you hit puberty, well, that voice deepens, and it's really a night and day scenario between the voice of a male child and the voice of a male teenager. And people could say, "Oh my gosh, that's evil. That is just evil." And of course, because we're talking about teenagers, it could be evil, but for different reasons. So yeah, I just want to bring that out into the clear. And basically, you may be interested in some of these 10 facts, and so, or what this person's calling a fact, which really isn't a fact. It's 10 facts on the illusions and dangers of Kundalini. And this person gets into if you identify as a New Age spiritual seeker, curious and hungry to take consciousness to new heights, even to enlightenment, you would likely have come across Kundalini, perhaps even taken a workshop. And she says, the thing is, authentic Kundalini is just not that simple. Most of what out there is shiny, sexy, glamorous illusion that is designed to make you reliant on a teacher, group, or school, or have you feel good fast and turned on for longer, not feel into your soul on a dedicated, intensive life path. And of course, this person is mixing truth in with disinformation in order to ground the disinformation into truthful context, which just makes the disinformation more acceptable to people. And, they go on, let's see, teachers and facilitators running these sessions and workshops, showing you how to have your own Kundalini experience, which is what I do. Training you how to do this process with others, the truth of what has actually happened. And this is her truth. This is not the truth. When most are led to believe it's a Kundalini experience, it needs to be explored and talked about more. This is why my teachers, my contemporaries, and myself are drawn to share the truth from a place of love for your protection and well-being above all else. And basically, these people obviously have not experienced a true Kundalini understanding because they don't know what Kriyas are. They don't realize that Kundalini is not radioactive. And so, it's hard to find authenticity in these people, but they can write really good articles. They can write articles that are shown in the popular press, Western Australia, the Sunday Times, radio programs, WTV, and all of these things, and it's really unfortunate what they're doing here, and they get into it, and they really muddy the waters here. And I think that's what they're trying to do. They are trying to muddy the waters so that for some reason, maybe they actually believe what they're writing, which, is a whole different level of passionate disinformation that a person is putting out there because they think they're saving people. They think they're saving people, and they think that, that they have a righteous ability to save people from this radioactive element that's, that they're calling the Kundalini. So I don't get this too much on the groups that I run, but I did get it the other day. And I wrote a very long, somewhat scathing response to this individual who, of course, left the group, but not before I could copy who they were. And this person's name is Elise Carr, and she goes by the name of Stella Muse, and she is as innocent, shall we say. I'll be kind, and I'll say this person is as innocent as they come to the truth of the Kundalini. She does not have the Kundalini. Her contemporaries, if they are, oozing what she is saying about the Kundalini, they do not have Kundalini either. and neither do her teachers. This person is a person that teaches Tantra. She teaches, she's a Reiki master, she's a certified life coach. And yet she, it's interesting with the whole Tantra scenario. How do you teach Tantra and not know the truth of the Kundalini? It's just beyond me. And because she's a good-looking woman, she's a very pretty, beautiful woman. She's a model. It comes down, I feel, to the recipe of selling books. She's got a book out, so she's trying to sell her book, and she's using her physical beauty and fear of an unknown force, certainly unknown to her force, to sell her books. And so she's using sex or sex appeal and fear to sell her book. And you need to be very, very, very aware of these things, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want to be titillated by a person's sex appeal or by a person's fear mantra or a fear image that they're placing out there in order to discourage you from exploring the areas of yourself that are waiting for you to explore. This person goes on to say that true Kundalini doesn't really happen, and if you're having energetic surges and you're having rushes and you're having basically all the symptoms of Kundalini, if you're having these symptoms, then these are just minor energetic expressions from chi or from whatever other source. I'm not reading it right here, so I'm not going to pretend to quote the sources or the areas where she says it's coming from. But it's not the Kundalini. She says it's false. Don't worry about it. Just, you probably need a certified life coach to get yourself through this. Gosh, what do you know? I happen to be a certified life coach. And let's see, how much? Let's see, $1,000 a session, and I can certainly clear this up within you. Kind of see where this is going here. So it's very important to understand that what you read and what you hear and what you maybe see on television or see on YouTube or any of the various areas about Kundalini as a fearful element of and something that should be ignored, these are falsehoods. And for those of you that have it, that already have the Kundalini, you already know this. You already know that this is the case, and you don't need to be encouraged into fear to think that you might have some sort of a disease, or you might have some sort of a scenario that is going to cause you to lose control of your sense of self. Even though Kundalini has the ability to really redesign and transform the individual, and that's the whole agenda of the Kundalini, is to transform the individual, having it into a form or a version of semi-divinity, the divine made flesh or the flesh made divine, and however you want to hear it. And so, of course, because that is so unacceptable to science, and it is so unacceptable in a way to society, because society doesn't think that that divinity is even real. I mean, it's something that is outside of the individual, not something that is resting within. And the actual truth is that it is a force that is resting within us. Divinity is truth, and we have the ability to become that truth. And, we have to swim through a sea of lies in order to get to the truth within ourselves often. This is not unknown to Kundalini people. The medical community doesn't believe that you have it. The religious community is afraid that you have it. The educational community and the scientific community and the societal associations and the communities of government and all of these human constructs of social organization will not believe that you have what you have. And then along come these other people, spouting 10 facts or 10 non-facts about what they think Kundalini is about, and you're literally swimming in a sea of lies. And I'm just trying to really help you swim really well. Today is swimming day. This is a swimming lesson day. And I'm going to teach you how to dive to the bottom of the pool of lies and pick up your little pearls of truth and hold them tight as you swim back up to the surface of this pool of lies and continue on your way. So one of the first pearls really you need to understand, and I know I feel it's kind of ludicrous to even have to say this to you, but I will say it to you. Kundalini is not radioactive. They did not somehow find a way to put Kundalini in nuclear warheads and detonate them in specific areas in order to activate the Kundalini in people and have them, go crazy or be sick or anything like that. It has nothing to do with radioactivity. So it's very important for people to understand that. And it looks like I have a caller down here, and I'm going to go ahead and check out the caller here. And hello, caller. How are you? This is area code 848-459. Hello, caller.
Hey, Chrism. How are you? This is Tyra.
Oh, I'm fine. Who is it?
This is Tyra.
Hi, Tyra. You called in last week, did you not?
Yes, I did. Is that okay that I can call every week?
It's fine. It's fine. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Do you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, but I want to just make some comments, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
I think the sessions are really wonderful. You're really a great guide, and I would like to thank you for that. There are very few people out there like you, because I've been looking, and I couldn't find anybody who's like you. I really don't know how to go to your chat room, but I do have this number, so I love listening to you, so I call in.
Oh, thank you, Tyra.
Yes, and one more thing I would like to add, if I may, without offending anybody, is that when we talk about Kundalini, it applies to all human beings, all race, religions, nationalities. It's for everybody. But when we talk about the origin of the concept of a Kundalini, it comes from Hinduism, not Buddhism, not Christianity. And many times I feel like that's really, the word Kundalini comes from word Sanskrit word. Actually, Buddhism is one of the branches of Hinduism that came out of Hinduism. Buddha was born a Hindu. And I hear many times that Kundalini is a Buddhism concept, which is a completely not right information.
Well, my understanding is that, aside from the history of the word, the Kundalini concept predates Hinduism. It goes back to the Rishis and the Sanskriti people that no longer exist.
Right, so Rishi word, again, the word Rishi is a Sanskrit word. This all comes from Hindu scriptures. All this comes from Hindu scriptures and Vedas and Upanishads and all those books. So, yes.
And it was actually an oral tradition. It was an oral tradition for a couple of thousand years, and it wasn't put in books until much later. But maybe in the Western world, it was more put right. Well, but I'm talking about a person who has lived in the eastern part of the world and who knows all the books and how old they are. So just a little correction, nothing big there. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that input, Tyra. Thank you. And look forward to talking with you next week. Hinduism and Sanskriti people, there's a very great debt is owed to some of the civilizations that nurtured and continued the information about the Kundalini awakening in the individual, and certainly the Sanskriti rishis and some of the current Hindu practices and practitioners are very well deserving of that grace. And I'm talking about Yogananda, Vivekananda. I'm talking about the different Hindu based saints and people that have had the Kundalini come up, and Gopi Krishna, another one of the latest ones. He died in 1986. So yeah, it's a great blessing that we have the knowledge base that the ancient Rishi people put together, and that has been nurtured throughout the many years and millennia that we're able to partake of today. But it does come to Christian people too, and they have their own word for it. They call it the fire of Christ, or the Shekinah. And these are not Sanskrit words, and these are words that come from the language of the Bible, the Hebrew language, and the different other languages of the Bible that mention this type of a divine consciousness. And if you look at Hinduism, and these are all shamanistic in their source material. If you look at Hinduism, we have a monkey god, we have an elephant god, we have the peacocks, and we have the different vestiges of a shamanistic culture that has been humanized in many ways, and carries with that humanization the different interpretations of life and the different interpretations of God that particular shamanistic culture carries with it. If you go across the ocean to the Amazon basin and you talk to some of the ayahuasca, or the ayahuasqueros, or the priests and the shamans that participate in ayahuasca ceremonies, and they may have a very, very different take on the Kundalini, but no less powerful and no less indicative of Kundalini transformative experiences and enlightenment of the consciousness. And I know this for a fact. I've traveled to South America, and I've drank the ayahuasca, the jungle tea, and I totally experienced the Kundalini within my experiences with that substance of the Banisteropsis copy and the chacruna, the admixture plant that they put into the teas. And one of my first experiences there was to see the giant serpent, the anaconda, and that I was sitting on the head of an anaconda the size of a train, and many other people have very, very similar scenarios. Not to mention having the actual Kundalini awakened because of their ingestion of the sacred tea, the Pachamama, the ayahuasca. And so, this is transcultural. This goes beyond all races. This goes beyond all religions. And even though I'm calling it Kundalini, because that's one of the first words that I came across that allowed me to understand what it was I was actually experiencing, doesn't mean that the other words of the world, the Tumo of the Tibetans, or the 33rd degree of the Masonic orders of Europe, or any of the other names that the Kundalini goes by. I'll go back to Shakespeare and I'll say, a rose by any other name still smells as sweet. And so, the name is, Sanskrit terms are really nice. I like the Sanskrit language because they're blending prayers and syllables into a meaningful communicative form. And so Kundalini, three syllables and a very meaningful prayer in a way. I like that. And so I don't mind using it, but the word itself is meaningless. It's just a human creation of an energetic existence. It's Kundalini, that which is at the base of the spine, or that which is coiled within. You could call it tortellini, and if tortellini wasn't already used for a noodle, well then it would be tortellini, and we'd be giving that the big sacred quality. The fire of Christ, another descriptive term for the Christians. And, there are so many different names for the Kundalini. Some of the Amazon ayahuasqueros call it the red serpent energy, because they see the red serpent, the red of the first chakra, and the serpent of this coalesces into an actual serpent for the people that are experiencing that. And so it is it's transcultural, and people don't want to get stuck in the egotism of thinking that, well, I'm Christian, therefore because my God says that I am the one God and the only God, so help me God, then that is the way it is for everybody too. Or if and therefore my belief system says this, and that, and therefore my belief system's correct because I believe it. You don't want to get into that egotism, and the Kundalini actually takes you away from falling into the egotism and the bigotry of competing belief systems, or competing the relevance of a certain belief system against another belief system, or competing the historical virtuosity or virtues of one belief system against another. And all belief systems carry the kernel of the Kundalini, not just one, not just two, not just the big five main religious expressions on this world, but all true religions, shall I say, not a religion that's fabricated on the 10 incorrect facts of Kundalini, like that woman wrote, but true belief systems that have really identified levels of enlightenment to an individual, such as shamanism, the oldest belief system, and Hinduism and Buddhism and Christianity and Zoroastrianism and many of the ancient Sumerian belief systems. These all carry kernels of truth and kernels of Kundalini. Anything that is going to provide an awakening vector at the base of the spine for an individual will carry with it specific levels of information and compelling activities that will begin to unlock the sacred mysteries at the base of everybody's spine. Now, because everybody has the Kundalini locked away at the base of the spine, that doesn't mean that they're ready to have it awakened. Just because people have the Kundalini within them and it's dormant doesn't mean, well, hi, Kundalini, I guess I better awaken it up and say, hey, wake up, Kundalini, what's going on? What are you doing there? Come on, wake up. That could be a hazardous thing to do. Just because it's there doesn't mean that it's an actual that it's an imperative that an individual wakes it up. Some people are just not within the evolutionary qualities yet for it to be awakened, and they should not have it awakened. But at the same time, as our species continues to evolve, and as our belief systems continue to evolve towards love, towards understanding, towards comprehension, towards compassion, not just for humanity, but for all forms of creation, so are we also evolving into a point where we can manifest a greater understanding of who we are and how we are, and begin to open into these areas of grace, slowly but surely. But not everybody is going to awaken their Kundalini at the same age. Not everybody's going to awaken their Kundalini the same way. Not everybody is going to even use the word Kundalini, as Tyra was saying. they'll use the word that they're used to using, and it describes the exact same thing. Their word, the Rishi word, Kundalini, but it's just something else, another word. Well, we'll call it Tumon, so we'll use the Tibetan term for it. And actually the word Reiki is Japanese for the life force, and that could also be used as a term for Kundalini, because it is the force of life that gives us life on this world. And it creates life within the sperm and the egg of the human being, within the human female. And so, yes, of course, that is applicable. It's just been so commercialized into, it's really not relevant anymore to Kundalini because of the commercialization of it. And so, I want this to be crystal clear. Everybody has the Kundalini, but everyone does not need it to be awakened. There are 1,000 million different cultures on this world, and every culture really has its own word for the Kundalini, and what we're calling the Kundalini, the sacred force of divine consciousness that is dormant within the last 3 vertebrae of the tailbone of an individual. If you have any questions about that, and I'm going to encourage you to call in. The call-in number is 347-934-0026, and I'd like to go ahead and introduce my co-host. Hi, Santara. Welcome.
Hi, Chrism. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm surprised to see you here. I thought you had taken a hiatus.
You thought I had what?
I thought you had taken a break.
Oh, no. No, that's not this week.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's when I'm going to Kerry Chrism, which is, which I thought was next week, but it's actually the week after, and I'll be gone then until the end of August.
And Cole has an interesting question about this topic, Centaur. He says, why do and did some belief systems involve animal sacrifices? What is their merit of such rituals, if there is any? The life force, the giving of the force of a life of a creature to divinity, the blood of the lamb, the blood of the calf, of the ox, this is all sent into the ethers as a way of enticing divinity to do the work that those individuals wanted them to do. Rams were a favorite one within biblical times to be slaughtered upon the altar of God, and it's incorrect. It's about as incorrect as you can get. But because so many people did it and so many people believed in it, blood sacrifice became a vehicle for people to realize certain prayers or certain manifestations of grace that they wanted to have. It's the same thing with reading chicken entrails, and you cut the chicken open and all the entrails are there, and you look at those and you go, oh, well then we have this happening over there and that happening over here, and basically it's a way to stimulate perhaps the intuitive aspects of a person's spiritual qualities that would allow them to be able to foretell the future or understand current events that may be happening. Cole, it has very little to do with Kundalini, obviously. Kundalini teaches ahimsa. It teaches another Sanskrit word, ahimsa, to do no harm. It teaches that copiously. You don't need to kill anything except to eat. There you get to kill, and even when you kill something to eat it, it is not being used in an egotistic fashion. It is being taken within you. It is joining you on your life journey. It is a friend. It is a soul force that is joining your soul force and allowing that combined soul force to move forward into the world of life, as it does with any predator. When the lion eats the zebra, boom, the zebra becomes the lion, and the lion becomes the zebra, that type of thing. So, Cole, that's my answer to that. And, of course, there's just people that like to kill things, Cole. They just like to go out there and kill things. And, they get some sort of a lift. They get some sort of a thrill. They get out there with their 30-06 and they, big scope on them, and they, scope out that deer, 3/4 of a mile away, and they drop that deer and call themselves a sportsman. Yay. So there's that, too. There's that kind of killing, too, and that also serves more of an egotistic purpose. And even plants, when we kill the plants to have the salad, we kill the plants, and that plant becomes us. We become that plant. We become the qualities and the energies that those living forms, those living creations provide us with, and we form a level of symbiotic, energetic symbiosis with these creations as we move forward with their assistance in our lives. And it's very important for people to understand that no form of life deserves to live more than another. Because they're plants doesn't mean that they don't feel pain. Just because people haven't designed a machine to measure the pain of plants, just because they're a fish doesn't mean they don't hurt when that hook goes through their lips. And so on and so forth. And you can actually smell the fear off some of these livestock trucks that you pass on the highways and freeways here in the United States. And geez, I just finished a transcontinental drive from Santa Rosa to the eastern seaboard, and I passed a few of these livestock trucks, and boy, you can really feel the terror and the fear and the pain of these beautiful creatures that are being put on there to sacrifice themselves so that we and they may partake of a joined, continued force of existence upon this world. So thank you, Cole, for your question there. And do you have any comments on this, Centauro?
Don't think so, Chrism, that I can think of right now. No.
Okay. All right. So as we continue onward, very important to know that the force of life, or the Kundalini that we're talking about on this program and have been talking about since 2012, which was the first show. This is all about the creations of a divine consciousness that allows humanity and other forms of creation to step into a higher vibrational divine consciousness, a semi-divine consciousness, you might say, as we have 1 foot on this earth and 1 foot in the divine matrix of all creation. And this is the goal of the Kundalini. This is what it all begins to filter down through, filtering through the lies like Elise is putting out there, and filtering through the egotism, the ego-strewn blood sacrifice, as Cole mentioned, and all the different manifestations of an innocent ignorance within humanity towards the acceptance and the ascension into grace. As we filter through all of those things, we come down to the pearl, what some people call the blue pearl of the Kundalini, and the blue pearl of the Kundalini embeds itself within the individual and begins process of slow acclimation to transformation. And this slow acclimation means that you'll have certain energetic surges, certain energetic challenges come to you. Whether it's kriyas, those little convulsions, or the grand mal seizure type of movements that the Kundalini can bring upon a person and scare people that don't know what's happening, like the people I've mentioned already. All the way up to teleportation and the different sacred skill sets, telepathy and clairvoyance and clairaudience and the sacred skill sets of gods and goddesses upon this world, so they don't need to use words, they can use thoughts. They don't need to manipulate matter with flesh, they can just use thought or intention and the gift of grace that is placed within that thought or that intention to move that orange to the left or the right, or to move that car off that individual, or to do any of the things of service to humanity that the Kundalini consciousness within the individual feels is appropriate within the society and the circumstance at any given time. So as the Kundalini comes up and we begin subtle levels of acclimation, at first it's not subtle for the most part. It can be somewhat of a bumpy ride at first, and you'll feel the energy surging up your spine, and then you'll feel it go down. And then you'll feel the energy surging up your spine, and then you'll feel it go down. And then it'll surge not quite as far up the spine, and then it'll go down. And then it'll surge a little further up the spine, then it'll go down. And back and forth it goes like a hyperactive thermometer, up the spine, down the spine, up the spine, down the spine, up the spine, down the spine, into the legs, up the legs, up the spine, down the spine, into the legs, into the feet, into the knees, into the pelvic girdle, and blah, blah, blah. It just begins to really begin to spread itself into the various parts of the body. And at first, as I mentioned, it may be, a little jouncy. It may be a bumpy ride at first, but pretty soon you become acclimated to this, and you don't really feel it anymore. And then it increases itself a little bit more. And then, then you get some more phenomena, you get some more frequency enhancement, and you feel it more and more and more. And then you stop feeling it because you've become acclimated to it. And this goes on so on and so forth over years and years and years of experience with the Kundalini. And this is all good. I was just speaking to a student earlier today. Well, how come I don't feel my symptoms the way I used to feel them? Blah, blah, blah. And it's, well, you don't need to. You've become acclimated to it. You don't need to go back in time and feel all that jouncy, bumpy ride anymore. Your shocks are working now. Okay, your shocks have been strengthened, to use a car analogy. The shocks on you have been strengthened to the point where you're able to carry this load of increased divine frequency without all the bumping that the unevolved flesh and the unevolved consciousness would constitute as to be a very bumpy ride. Now it's smoother. Now other phenomena will be coming your way and challenging your status quo, or challenging your complacency, or challenging your need to practice more and more and more. In many ways, as you continue within the Kundalini, the necessity for you to nourish it consciously and to practice it, practice nourishing elements for it to consciously continue moving through you becomes a very, very strong property of grace. You need to understand that just because you have the Kundalini doesn't mean there isn't any more work to do. We're getting back to this thing Tyra was bringing up about, there's so many mistaken beliefs within the many different belief systems that acknowledge the Kundalini, that, oh, wow, once you have the Kundalini, then your karma is completely taken care of. And it's not. It's not completely taken care of. That is a mistaken assumption. It will help you. It'll bring a lot of karma to you. It'll bring a boatload of karma for you to resolve in a single lifetime. But it certainly doesn't mean that it's all taken care of just because you have Kundalini. No, not at all. It literally is a karma magnet for you. And so because of that, of course, we got to go back to the unawakened people that think they know about Kundalini, even though they don't. And they write these 10 articles or these facts or this misinformation about the Kundalini, saying, well, gosh, it causes you to go into convulsions and it's radioactive. What then, And so, and I'm just saying, well, it's a karma magnet. That means, it brings things of a karmic nature for you to find redemption for and to ameliorate within your energetic spiritual principle. And so perhaps some challenging things may happen to you. Maybe, you'll get divorced. Maybe you'll have some sort of a heartbreak, or you'll have some sort of a career type of crash, and, any of the various karmic things that can happen to an individual. And, and the unawakened and ignorant will point that and go, see how bad that Kundalini is. Oh, my gosh. And even Chrism said it was that way. And they'll say it just like that. So, let me ask Centauri here. Centauri, have you had any kind of karmic retribution?
You know what, Chrism? I've had nothing as dramatic as that. No, I haven't. I've had a lot of stuff, but, nothing that I can list, really. I can't.
Well, I can list.
I'm not being very helpful, am I? You list them.
I can list a few for you if you like, but they're of a somewhat personal nature.
Yeah. Go right ahead, please. Feel free.
No, I won't. It's not fair to you just because you're not remembering them right now. I won't do that to you.
I'm okay with this, Chrism, if you wish. Please use me as an example.
You may be okay with it, but your family may not be. You maybe need to think a little bit beyond the self. Karma redemption often includes other people. And it's those qualities that will come together to bring about a karmic redemptive pattern within an individual lifetime. I won't say those things. But I've had them. I can speak for myself. I had some very, very strong karmic scenarios come forward, brought about by Mr. and Mrs. Kundalini, Shakti Shiva, sacred female, sacred male. Very powerful experiences that compelled me to, first of all, solve or redeem the karmic debt. Number two, to survive that redemption and to move forward into understanding of why that redemption took. I've had plenty of those things, and I don't think anybody that has the Kundalini had ever gotten away with not having any. Never.
I wasn't saying that, actually.
Yeah.
Just not discussing it with you.
Huh?
Yeah. Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, so have you had an opportunity to collect any questions for today's show, Centauri?
I have indeed, Chrism. Yeah, I have.
Let's
I'm
go ahead
going there right now.
I would also, before we start, I'd like to say a big thank you to Rosemary Goliath and Joanne Frost and Katie of the Minnesota Kundalini community, and the wonderful meeting that I had with those stars of the Midwest, and I can see that they're listening to the program right now, and so I want to put a shout out to Joey and Rosemary and Katie for that excellent meeting, and just to let Joey and Katie know that I have not forgotten my promise of a mantra for either one of you, and these will be forthcoming. And just keep checking your mailbox there on Facebook, and you will have a mantra coming to you soon at a theater near you. All right. Go ahead, Centaur.
Okay.
I'm ready for you.
Okay. The first few questions have come into my inbox, Chrism. Do fingerprints change in Kundalini activation?
It's not necessary that they change, no. But they can change. So can the eye color changed. My eye color changed. My fingerprints, they did change to some degree, but not to a great degree. I mean, I'd have to go back to, pre-Kundalini times when I was fingerprinted to really make the measurement, which I have not done. So I cannot say with full, truthful accuracy that my fingerprints have not changed, but I'm looking at my fingers right now, and, there's some blank spots within that fingerprint. So, maybe it has changed. Over.
Okay, thank you. After the spinal sweep, I had sensory experience of growing up to the sky and being one with the universe. Why does this experience not repeat?
Sometimes, if it were to repeat, it would take you off the tasks that you're here to do. It would take you off of the hard work that we're here to do in the flesh body. It's giving you an experience and a truthful experience of what awaits you and what is drawing you and compelling you to go forward. But you've still got to do the physical work too. You've got to take care of your camel, as some people put it, and as other people put it, you still got to chop the wood and haul the water. You still have to feed yourself. You still have to heat yourself. You still have to take care of some of the karmic challenges that are being brought up to you by the Kundalini. And it's not to say that will not repeat just because it hasn't repeated yet. An individual needs to continue to work within the Kundalini. It's like as the activated person continues towards the spinal sweep or the physical conscious merging with divinity, so that person must continue to feel the compelling and to feel the need to and the urge to create that merge with the divine. And so that involves work, that involves practice, that involves challenging fear, that involves challenging ignorance, that involves bringing levels of happiness that are not contingent upon society's idea of happiness, bringing on levels of understanding that is not contingent with perhaps the narrow focus of what their society continues to be information or considers to be information, and so on and so forth. We have to continue to move towards grace consciously now. Grace will give you these little tidbits of things. You'll feel the oneness of everything and the plurality of everything, and the oneness and the plurality and the oneness and the plurality. And the plurality becomes one, and the one becomes plural. And you'll feel all of these amazing contradictions, and yet you'll feel the seamless fitting of the two opposites into a glorious, pluralized oneness. You become everything, and you'll know everything. And for that microsecond, that smidgen of a second, you'll know. And then you won't, because you won't be allowed to remember everything, number one. And number two, there's still work for you to do by chopping wood and hauling water, taking care of your camel, watering your horse. I mean, use whatever analogy you want to use. But there's still more gardening to do. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. I have two questions I would like to ask Master Chrism from what I read on the internet last week. Firstly, is the following true? Kundalini psychosis, also known as Kundalini syndrome, occurs when too much hot or yang qi rushes up the spine or right or left psychic channel to the brain and gets stuck there. And the symptoms include heat, pressure in the head and heart, visual hallucinations, paranoia, and these symptoms can persist for days, weeks, or even longer.
Is that a question?
It is. Is the following true? So I think they're asking.
True? No.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. I mean, it is true that it happens. It's not true of the egotistic interpretation of what is happening. The idea of getting stuck. The idea that it's a mistake. the idea that it's something that needs to be created because our ego is so strong and so powerful. And of course it knows the divine agenda that has been set out before itself upon this Kundalini path. And therefore it must begin to take away the heat, to take away the symptom in one way or another, because of course it's not comfortable. And of course, if it's not comfortable, then it's not good. And if it's not good, well, we need to make it good. And so within an egotistic understanding, it is correct. Within a divine understanding, divinity does not make mistakes of that nature upon a human system. The interpretive qualities of the ego does make mistakes about these things. And even then, if you're experiencing too much heat and, too much of a heat up, say, the right or the left side, there are ameliorative techniques that a person can do, such as left nostril breathing, can cool that down. I feel heat all the time. All the time I feel heat. I'm not calling it a mistake. Sometimes I feel the sacred freeze as well. The sacred cold of the sacred feminine. And I'm not like trying to right nostril breathe my head off because, oh my God, it's cold, it's freezing. Oh my God, what can I do? No. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to do that. I just accept it. I accept it as a manifestation of grace. I don't try to let my ego come in and become Dr. Kundalini and say, well, I see that you have the right channel is being overexposed to the sacred male, and therefore the heat is rising above, and we must fix this and nurse, scalpel. And we're just going to have to go in here and yes, there's the blockage. And reaching in with my finger like John of God and just pulling that blockage. Close, I'm done. It's not that way. You don't get to play Dr. Kundalini and operate on yourself because you think that the blockage is manifesting as a mistake. I used to think that way too, I have to admit. Earlier on, even in my teaching, I would try to correct some of the symptomology that a Kundalini person was having. And I think that was a bit, I have to own it. I think that that was a bit egotistical on my part to think that I would be able to correct a divine function upon another person. And my Kundalini, it wasn't long before my Kundalini said, hey, hands off. I don't make mistakes like your ego does. Let this person have the experience. Yes, you can give them some comforting understandings, and here they are. Give that to them. Let them manifest the understandings, and let those understandings create a less of a resistance against a symptom that is something that they're literally not used to. But don't go in there thinking that you're going to change the game for these people. They need to have what they're having. Just because it's hard or hurtful or uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's wrong. Over. This is how my Kundalini talks to me.
Yeah, I know. I love what you said there about, what you're given, the understandings you're given, that the person understands, so they create less of a resistance to what they're being given. I mean, that's the essence of your teachings. Is really, that's
well,
amazing.
For so many, they're having such a hard time with the Kundalini because they're resisting it, and so it's creating this huge level of discomfort. And they go to these quote unquote certifiably insane life coaches. That's how I'm going to phrase it. They go to these
250 euros an hour. Yeah.
They go to these life coaches, and the life coach, wow, sounds to me like you've got Kundalini syndrome. And let me see. I think I need to schedule 10 visits with you at $1,000 a pop. And you won't get rid of this unless you come and you see me. I am the only one on the internet that can get rid of this for you. And therefore start saving your pennies, my friend. Did I sound evil?
Evil, but like really delivered in that way that sounds so authentic, but it's live.
Michelle Rager, did I sound evil enough? Michelle's in the chat room. I'm calling her out. Vicky, did I sound evil? I was trying to go for evil here, and I'm not quite sure I succeeded. But yeah. So they'll go to a life coach, and this life coach will try to give them, different ways to cool off or to try to find a way to ameliorate their pain. And there's a possibility that they would know about right or left nostril breathing or things of that nature. So thank you, Michelle. She says you sounded classic. Yes, Vincent Price. So these things are natural. Kundalini doesn't make these mistakes, and I know they're uncomfortable watching entity heads come through a wall. That can be extremely disturbing, make you think. I mean, all the hair will stand up on your neck, and all of your primal instincts will come to the fore, and you'll want to run, but you'll be paralyzed with fear. And there that thing is looking at you after just having come through the wall. And what are you going to do? I mean, you're paralyzed with fear. It can be very, 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 very life-changing, life-altering. And this is just how it is when your eyes are opened behind the veil. This is like swimming underwater with eyes that see very clear. And you see all kinds of different forms of life that you would never have seen if your eyes were only accustomed to seeing through air or that which is on the land. And so when you're in shall we say, the astral or a different dimensional viewing area, you will begin to see that which interacts or has the ability to interact upon this earth plane, with your brain frequency. You'll be able to see it, and it will be. And many of them are pushing fear, because this is the astral, the lower astral, and many of them will have that agenda. And the Kundalini will allow it because she doesn't want you to continuously succumb to fear. And she knows that, the Sacred Mother knows that in order to conquer fear, you've got to face fear. But without fear, there's nothing to face. And so you have to have the fear in order to face it. Like I was saying last week, without the blockage to overcome, you don't move forward. You have to have the blockage in order to overcome it and therefore move forward. Over. Roger that.
I doodle, when you're talking, I'm doodling without paying much attention to my patterns and things. And when you were talking about swimming underwater with your eyes open, I had actually doodled an eye, and the eyelashes were waves. So, nice. And the next thing, nice. You're talking about swimming underwater, which is, I thought, wow.
When I open my eyes under the water or the ocean or somewhere, first of all, it gets kind of stingy, especially if you're down in the Caribbean or somewhere, it gets kind of stingy. And then everything's kind of blurry. I never get it as clear as I get it when I have clear swim goggles on, which I really like. Those are the only ones I'll wear, they're the clear ones.
Yeah, I have been swimming, as you know, in Kerry every weekend, and I have been swimming without goggles with my eyes open. It's been quite amazing, actually.
Yeah, well, try it with clear goggles on.
Oh, I know, but it's just my eyes are fine. I'm not being given any, anything happening. So it is, but the water is not like the Caribbean, Chrism, I can assure you.
Hang on a second now. Just a second. I know we're in the middle of questions, but Rosemary has a question. I'm going to go up there and answer her question real quick here. And yes, dear Rosemary.
Hi, dear Chrism. I pushed the one right when you were in like a semi-second break, and but thank you, because I wanted to let you know I have to leave in 5 minutes here, and I wanted to be able to welcome people to Minnesota and to say thank you. Also, what you said about our meeting, it was quite powerful, and that's what's available in attending a seminar that we get together, Zoom, Skype.
It's worse than that meeting was, let me tell you. It's much more powerful. The meeting was great, don't get me wrong, but the seminars, oh my God, they're very different.
Yes, but becoming part of the community, that's what I'm saying, after the seminar. The community that has formed from previous seminars, that's available to people too. And that's what I was meaning. No, that's not a comparison. But it's a way of sustaining some of what you have gotten in the seminar for sure.
Hey, so can you give your seminar announcement?
Yes, I do. October 28th and 29th in Mankato, which is about an hour and 20 minutes from the cities. And anyone coming into the airport.
What cities are you talking about? Because not everybody lives in Minnesota.
Oh, sorry. The Twin Cities, that Minnesota, Minneapolis, and St. Paul.
Yes.
And
thank you.
So that's where the airport is if you are coming from out of state. And my information is rosemaryg@usinternet.com. And I'm always looking for responses and questions to answer about the seminar and to give people information. So please don't be shy about emailing me. My phone number is 952-303-6438 or 651-329-9615. And
the actual airport is in Minneapolis, not St. Paul. So you look for Minneapolis flights if you're going to be flying there. Thank you, Rosemary, and enjoy whatever endeavor it is you're looking for.
Thank you.
All right. And please continue, Santara, with your questions.
Okay. Well, the next part of that question, they had two questions. I scrolled up there now. I'm just finding it. Okay. Secondly, I read the problems that can occur from lack of grounding include overheating, high blood pressure, headaches, heart palpitations or arrhythmia, lack of focus on the details of life, distractedness or a general sense of spiciness. All these symptoms can usually be effectively prevented through the simple technique of opening the microcosmic orbit and learning to connect to the energy of Mother Earth. Is this true?
No. Not the microcosmic orbit part, but connecting with the Mother Earth part, yes. Microcosmic orbit is such an egotistical thing where you create a ball of energy that you consciously, with your ego, push around the outside of your body, following the central channel would be your spine, but it's on the outside of your skin and going around that way. And then you have that would be the macrocosmic orbit. And then the microcosmic orbit is you're creating with your ego, once again, a ball of light at the base of the spine that goes up the inside of your spine all the way up until it pops out inside your brain and it bounces off the front of the cranium to the back of the head, and it comes back down the spine to the base of the spine and then bounces back up the spine and then comes into the front of the cranium and then back to the cranium, then back down the spine it goes. It's just BS. But people need to put the monkey mind at rest. And sometimes people need to put the monkey mind to work. And for that purpose, yes, it can be helpful. The monkey mind being that mind of the ego that needs to do something. It's just like, oh, I gotta do something. I mean, I gotta participate in some way. I mean, I think this is really cool. I love the Kundalini. I love the enlightenment, but I just gotta do something with it. The microcosmic. Oh, okay, I'll do that. And so they do the microcosmic orbit, and that kind of gives the ego something to do. You don't require it if you don't have a problem with the chatterbox within your mind. You don't require it if you don't have the monkey mind that can be distractive. But if you do have that, then you can use the micro and the macrocosmic orbits. And you can do them at the same time. You can float the ball outside your body, you float the ball inside your spine at the same time. And I forgot to say that for the microcosmic orbit, which is on the inside of the spine, you're spinning that ball of energy to the right. Just an FYI. I never used this. I never used it. I mean, I was shown it, and at the time I was having a lot of entity interactions, and I would spin the ball right through the entity, and the entity would just kind of laugh at that and just like rejoin itself. I found it to be more of a quality of the egotism than a quality of fearlessness, courage, divine consciousness infusion. Divinity doesn't use the macrocosmic orbits. Doesn't require it. The Kundalini does not require these techniques, and the macrocosmic orbit is an Asian practice. And the Asians are well known for using different practices to try to control the energy, not so much into surrender, but far more interested in controlling the divine infusion, controlling the expressions of divinity through the person or the phenomenon. And if they can't control it, then they just want you to ignore it, which is in many aspects of Buddhism. It's like, oh, you're having that. Oh, well, just ignore that. It's not important. It's not required on the path to enlightenment because we can't control it. So because we can't control it, therefore, it's not required on the path to enlightenment. Kind of that attitude. And so I don't use the circulation of light or the microcosmic orbits, as they're also known as. The rest of what this person was saying is absolutely correct. Connecting with the earth, connecting with Sacred Mother, Sacred Father, utilizing the different tools that the Kundalini constantly showers down upon a person's consciousness in order to find the level of divine stability that the person is craving for. The person is, in a way, it's like being thrown into the swimming pool in order to learn how to swim. But you're being thrown in there with the long arms of mom and dad so that if you start going down, they'll pull you up a little bit. They won't let you die. But you're gonna learn how to swim either way. Over.
Chrism, just to stay on that a little while, I mean, this person is saying, that lack of grounding symptoms would be like high blood pressure and heart palpitations and arrhythmia, and that's not true.
That's not true at all. High blood pressure can often come. It comes with Kundalini because the Kundalini puts the body into a level of overdrive that is natural, that does not fit within the scientific medical bell curve of what is an appropriate blood pressure or not. Okay? Science doesn't recognize Kundalini. Therefore, science does not recognize the effect that Kundalini has on the body. Therefore, if you go to a doctor or a healthcare practitioner that's based in the science of medicine rather than the art of medicine, They're basing the science of the medicine, and you're going to fall outside of that bell curve with your BP or your pulse rate or any of the other measurements that we have for the endocrine system or any of the systems of the body. If you fall outside that bell curve, well, then you're going to be considered abnormal, and that needs to be corrected. High BP is can be part of the Kundalini process. It's not that way for everybody. I don't think, Amelia, you don't have high BP, right? You there?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and finish your business.
What? I'm here. Yeah, because it was just when, I just wanted to be clear that because somebody might have heard the question and thought you were saying that the person was correct, and they're not.
It's not lack of grounding that causes a high BP. Yeah. It's the Kundalini itself that will cause a high BP. You can be grounded up to your neck in the soil, and you'll still have the high BP. I don't know where this
and the palpitations.
This person is. It reminds me a lot of this Elise Carr person. Who doesn't really, they make a lot of assumptions without actually knowing.
Yeah, this person read this actually, so they're probably quoting something. Yeah. Okay, Chrism, well, thank you. No, actually, and this is a different person, but they've also read something, and it's about people awakening Kundalini prematurely and out of the blue or by accident, and how the consequences of that can be disastrous, they say. But now when this person meditates, they get scared that they will have an accidental or premature awakening, and now they can't meditate like they used to. Because their inner peace is gone. They've ruined their meditation.
Okay. This is falling into fear. One of the ways that I feel that this is more of a correct statement is when people go after entheogens like mushrooms or even copious amounts of ayahuasca, too much, or mescaline, or the different types of drugs like acid or LSD, and different types of things like that other one, datura or ginseng weed. These things you should avoid at all costs. You should not be doing these things in order to find another level of consciousness. Certainly not within the Western civilization. I mean, some cultures, certainly within the shamanic cultures, can use these plants as ways to indeed enhance the consciousness of an individual in a positive sense and combine that with Kundalini activation or awakening. But for the Western individual, where there is no acceptance of higher consciousness at all, it's basically science or nothing, or some sort of a religious expression that doesn't really fulfill spiritual evolution of an individual. They should stay as far away from these entheogens as possible. And so that can, the entheogens, meaning, some of the drugs that I just mentioned, that can create the environment for a premature Kundalini awakening. And yet, is that a mistake? Is divine making a mistake by allowing that person to come into the Kundalini expression without any kind of understanding or ability to manifest balance? Is divinity making a mistake, or is divinity teaching a lesson? That's the question that you want to really consider with the question that you're asking. Does divinity make accidental mistakes? No. Do the egos of individuals make accidental mistakes? Yes. Will the divine within an individual allow a person to make a mistake that is painful and hurtful to themselves? Yes. Yes, it will. Storm the gates of heaven. You can expect to run into a hard wall, an unforgiving, for a time, hard wall. And it will hurt. It will hurt a lot. It can literally hurt for a lifetime. I know a guy that was searching for God. And he had this really strong passion to search for God. And so he took magic mushrooms, a lot of magic mushrooms, the psilocybin mushrooms, and he went into a church. And he, at the height of his experience with the mushrooms, he asked God to present itself to him. And it blew the top of his head off. And he had instant saturation of extremely strong frequencies and energies and consciousness upon a crown that was the only chakra that was really activated upon him was the crown. And this was the beginning of a top-down activation for this individual. And he literally began to go crazy. There was no understanding. There was no segue. There was no information. There was just amazing levels of phenomena and entity incursion and even some governmental vibrational harassment because it took the guy down to South America where he was working with the Ica stones or the Ica stones in southwest Peru. And at the time, the government did not want people to know about the Ica stones and what the knowledge base that they have there in Peru, such as people being alive at the same time that dinosaurs were alive, and really kind of screwing around with the state of historical understandings that is currently assumed to be true. And so he was harassed that way as well. And he wound up having to go to the MDs to take the absolutely strongest tranquilizer that they had built at the time, that they had put together at the time. And this cost $800 a pill. And he had to take this tranquilizer and in order to just be able to go to work. So will the Kundalini allow you to make severe mistakes? Yes. Do I suggest that you partake of these types of chemicals? No. Do I suggest that you storm the gates of heaven at all? No. Will you be allowed to have a difficult scenario? Yes. And I think that may have been the source of that question. Yes?
Thank you very much, Chrism. I'm on to the groups now. And so this question was on the group the other day or yesterday, I think. And I'm going to read the two together. How many chakras are there? As different people and sects claim different numbers. And how many petals are there in each chakra?
You would be asking that guy's questions. Okay. There are literally millions of chakras, trillions of chakras in the human system. Literally. You got to understand that every cell equals a complete human being. Genetically speaking, you can grow an entire human being from one skin cell. One living skin cell can be grown into an entire human being. Blood, bones, hair, teeth, eyes, organs, everything, right? And each one of those individuals have 7 chakras and all the trillions of chakras within it. So there's an infinitude of chakras within an individual human being. For our purposes within the Kundalini, we really look at the major chakras, which would be 7. Except for the Asian people, they only acknowledge 5. Okay, but for what I experienced with the Kundalini, there was definitely 7. And then if you count the minor chakras, the ones in the hands and in the feet and in the knees and in the hips and in the shoulders and in the neck, when you take account for those chakras, well, then there's more. But to me, it doesn't really matter how many chakras there are, because how can you count an infinitude? How many is an infinitude? It's an ever growing and ever increasing and ever decreasing level of mathematical computation. Okay? So that's the answer that I can give to the quantification of chakras within the human system. And this is different from the answer that I wrote to him. I was a little more sarcastic to him when I wrote to him. I basically said, there is as many as it takes. And I stand by that answer. There is as many as it takes. How many petals? Well, then, how many petals does God need an individual to have? And, in some way, this guy is looking for the cookie cutter, the comparison statistical approach. And he's already admitted, he wants to get into the science of the Kundalini. And so he's looking at the energetic anatomy, and he's trying to figure out a scientific approach of measurement and replication, perhaps, of the energetic anatomy. And fine, that's great. Gopi Krishna wanted to have Kundalini as a scientific a target of research as well. And I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that'd be fine. If society chose to make it more acceptable. At the moment, I think there's still a bit of a black hole there. But within that understanding, how many petals? However many petals that are required for that person to have. How many petals are on an infinitude of chakras? An infinity of petals is on an infinity of chakras. Because it just goes on and on and on. You see where it goes on and on? Am I explaining this clearly enough, Santara?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you are,
Yeah,
Chrism. Yes, you are.
If a skin cell has and this is one cell, we have about 17 trillion cells in an average human being. So if one living skin cell has the ability to form a complete human being, well, then that's 17 trillion potential human beings within one human being. And then that's 17 trillion times 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 17 trillion. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
How do you count it? I'll give that to Cole.
I suppose
Cole Kundalini, I give you the task of counting an infinity. He's in college right now, so he should be able to handle that.
Yeah. Okay. I know that for some people, those things seem quite important. Those kind of statistics, I find it difficult to. They don't seem important.
Not to me.
There's a question here that's interesting, Chrism, and it was on the group. Is Kundalini very hard to understand?
It's
an interesting question.
You never fully understand Kundalini while you're in a body.
Uh-huh.
Here's the thing. In one of the ayahuasca experiences I had down in Peru, which you were there, and so was Cole, and so was Joey. Joey, who's still on the line here too. I think it was the first or the second one. I think it was the time out of the four. The first time the ceiling opened up for me, and I was pulled into the divine, and it wipes you out. You merge with it, and it merges with you, but it is so beyond human comprehension. There's nobody, floating around on clouds at all. Nobody's got little angel's wings. There's not these little babies with angel's wings floating around like the Christians think. You're not looking at wise old men and saying, "Oh my," you're not doing that either. It's obliteration. And how do you understand obliteration? See, that's the question. Is it easy to understand obliteration?
Is it possible to remain comfortably married when your sex drive is totally gone? How can such a person fulfill the sexual desires of the spouse who needs sex more frequently? Is this person still fit for the marriage order?
Yes, to take the last question first. Yes, they are quite capable of continuing within a married format. What's the second to the last question?
How can such a person fulfill the sexual desires of the spouse who needs sex more frequently?
Very compassionately and very differently than may have been assumed before. So, for instance, you give without expectation of return, and you give sexually without expectation of return. You give to your spouse so that spouse cannot take any more, and you give it in a way that allows them to have those very, very strong orgasms, which is what they all want. And you do it with love, and you do it with compassion, and you do it with caring, and you do it purposefully, not necessarily driven by the urge that your spouse may be having, because the Kundalini has taken that urge away. But you do it purposefully by engaging the needs that you know are there, and being loving beyond your own profit margin, beyond your own sensate satisfaction. You give to them in as many different ways as you can. Now, if you're not having a libido, and if you're a man and you're failing to have an erection, well, there are other organs of the human anatomy that allow for vaginal stimulation or stimulation rather than an erect penis. And so you maybe want to begin to explore those areas of sexual expression rather than the straightforward let's make a baby type of scenario. What's the first question that they have?
Is it possible to remain comfortably married when your sex drive is totally gone?
Comfortable. That is a very, very, that's an individual quality. One person's comfort is another person's discomfort. And so you'll have to decide for yourself what is comfortable. It is possible, yes, but you'll have to make some changes. And is change comfortable for you? Are you willing to move outside of the straitjacket that society has most of its members enmeshed in? And if you are, then yes, absolutely, you can remain comfortably married and have a sex life that is really beautiful and happy and loving and expressively so within the marriage contract. Now the dinosaur dogs have awoken, and they're telling me that, yep, time for a walk. So you might hear some noise here. How has that worked for you, my dear?
Well, as you've expressed it, Chrism, very beautifully, you've expressed it very accurately. Yeah, I agree with absolutely everything you said. That would be my experience. And another thing I would say to the person is, I can't say for definite, but in my experience, the lack of sex drive, the lack of libido doesn't stay that way. It can stay that way a long time. It doesn't mean it's forever either.
Just a second, please. Tap dance. Tap dance, Amelia.
Oh, tap dance. Okay. So I remember the question as well, and thinking, for the person who has changed the status quo, and in my relationship, that would have been me. As the Kundalini becomes really in charge of our libido, or the Kundalini controls our libido, we really have no say over it. It's quite amazing. And because we're the ones that have changed the status quo, I feel that person has a huge responsibility in the relationship as well, to come into new ways of loving the partner, and exactly as Chrism described, comes from the divine Kundalini that's activated within us, and that is bringing us into this new place of love and expression and compassion and thoughtfulness, and it is a great gift to bring into the sexual relationship. When we stop looking at it as a problem, and we begin to see how beautiful it can become. Are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Thank you.
Okay.
Next question, please.
Okay, the next question is, while doing double arming, do I need to contract the sphincter of anus? Now,
you cherry pick these. Now you cherry pick these questions, don't you?
No, I don't actually. I pick them twice. I go down through the. No, really. No, I came across this one, Chrism, and it was nearly a week ago, and there's about 9 questions, and I've only.
After you finished laughing at what my response might be, you decided to add it in. Okay, all right, I hear you.
No.
Okay, double arming. Double arming, everybody. Double arming is when you arm silently to yourself on the inside. So as you inhale your breath, you're arming, but you're arming into your body, like. And so it's a very breathy arm for the inhalation, and then of course for the exhalation, it's right. And so double arming is inhalation, exhalation, inhalation, exhalation. And the question is, do you need to squeeze the sphincter while you're double arming? No, you do not need to squeeze the sphincter. You can, but you don't need to. It is not a need requirement. The Kundalini does not say, and thou shalt squeeze thine sphincter when double arming. But you can. It won't hurt you. And it might help you as well. You'll have to try.
Thanks, Chrism.
Yeah.
I never knew what double arming was. So see, I learned something there. And the next question was, is there a specific count for double arming?
In and out is typically the best.
Okay.
It would be a 2 count.
Okay. I'm just, I can't ask any question now, and I feel I'm.
The count.
Okay.
The count really is like. I think what they're talking about is the inhalation count. So like, how what's your count as you inhale? So you're inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You hold, and then you exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 2, 3, 7, and exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would probably be the count, and you could use that, what I just did, as a count, if you like.
Okay, thank you. What if I accidentally killed someone for self-defense counterattack?
Well, then you live and they die. What about it? What's the question? Is that the full question?
That's just it. There was a list of 9. Maybe,
Well, I think they're maybe talking about karma. You'll have to look at, was it truly necessary to kill in self-defense? Was it truly necessary to kill? Could you have run away? Could you have walked away? Could you have talked your way out of it? Could you have maybe shot them in the knee? What occurred? And were there other options for you to take? Okay. And if there were other options for you to take, then you've gained some karma there. If there was no other option to take, then you will not be chastised for continuing to live. The karmic burden will not be as rich and as deep. And then you got to look at what puts you in that position. So, for instance, some of these folks that have been getting killed by bears lately in the United States because they're jogging through a bear-infested wilderness. And they're surprised when they come face to face with a bear, and the bear chases them down and kills them. Why were they jogging in a bear-infested at all? So there's some karma there. Okay? It's like we know that if we swim with a bleeding cut, that we're going to attract sharks. So when the shark comes and takes a bite out of us and causes us to bleed even more, which causes it to bite us even more, is it the fault of the shark or the swimmer swimming with the cut? I'd say it's with the swimmer. Unless the swimmer had no circumstances where that could occur. And then it's neither. It's just a force of nature. It's an act of nature. And that is what it was. And the next life is being prepared to perhaps create a scenario where that type of thing does not occur. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. If somebody died as a Kundalini activated or awakened person and they're being reborn again, is there a choice for gender in the next life?
The choice for gender will follow along the lines of what the karma determines is what is best for that individual towards enlightenment to take. So let's examine that a little bit. If the person was a misogynist or a person who was abusive of women or of the sacred, the female of the species, and they were a rapist or they were just consistently over and over abusive of women, and my gosh, wouldn't it be a nice balancing to have that person reborn as a woman? And this does occur. Did the person have a choice? Absolutely not. But they did. They chose to have misogynistic tendencies. This is not something that just occurs out of the blue. Now, there may have been karmic fuel for that to occur. He may have had a domineering mother, or he may have been abused by women or something of that nature. Same thing with being a woman. Maybe she was raised by a domineering father or somebody and such, and she became a very oppressive person towards males. And so, it works on either side of the gender divide. And so as that person dies and comes into the review of their life, they're able to see kind of a strong imbalance, but they're also able to see the previous karma that occurred that would have allowed that imbalance to be given. And they're able to look at that and they're assisted by divine consciousness to be able to add it up and add up and to create a lifetime where specific patterns of probability will occur to begin to cure this imbalance, or begin to balance the gender animosity or the gender hatred, or to balance the wound, to heal the wound. These patterns of probability will be constructed. Will it include a choice of being a gender? No. The karma will choose whether or not you're that gender. You may need to be another man again in order to create those corrections before you're allowed to be sacred femininity. There are many, many, many different avenues of selection and of karmic direction that are involved with the making of another life. And the closer you get to the Kundalini, the stronger the urge is to make these corrections. And so that is it's actually a very profound question because it deals with the life between lives, the constant soul life that it extends itself into the human form in order to learn from the human condition what must be done in order for the divine condition to take root. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. Okay. I was just wondering about life review there, but the question has escaped me now. I was going to ask you something.
Well, the life review, it's not just that life that is being reviewed. It's the life that indeed was just lived and all of its effect on surrounding lives. So it's not just your life. It's the life of your life and how it affected your mom and how it affected your dad and how it affected your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter, your grandchildren, your grandparents, your friends, your workmates, perfect strangers. It's the footprint of your life and how it affected not just humanity, but all of creation. And then you take that study, that research, and you take it back into a karmic existence, the previous existence, or the last 100 previous existences, following the line of ascension that will allow the patterns of probability through that line of ascension to be determined for the next life expression.
Thank you, Chrism. Yeah. You know the truth of it. You see during the review the truth of all of that, the whole vastness of it.
It's much worse than that. You don't just see it.
You feel it.
Feel it.
Yeah.
You feel the effect of your life on every living being that you have come in contact with. You feel what they felt with regards to you. And you feel it as if you are them, all of their karma and their emotions and their qualities. You feel your mother giving birth to you. You feel the conception being made. You feel that person dying that you had to kill in self-defense, or if you're a soldier or something like that. You feel the animal that died to nourish you. You feel it all. All of it. And it gets a very strong experience. But then you go back into the other lives and you feel those lives too, in exactly the same progression. It's a big deal.
Thanks, Chrism.
No more. I want to end it with that.
Okay.
Do you have last words? Do you have an announcement?
I don't this week, Chrism.
Okay, very good. I will make some announcements. We have a German seminar coming up September 15th, 16th, and 17th, I think. Let me double check that. I don't have the dates right in front of me here. Let's see. This one.
16th and 17th.
16th and 17th, actually 15th, 16th, and 17th in September 2017. I would like you to contact Manish on Facebook, and she will be able to give you all the details, and it will be very, very helpful if you were able to prepay for your interest in that seminar. And this will allow me to have an air ticket. Otherwise, I'm not coming. So it would be helpful to do that. And if you like the work that we're doing, and if you wish to make a donation, you can make a donation to Kundalini Ascension-Kundalini at blogspot.com. So that's ASCENSION-Kundalini at blogspot.com. And you can make a donation there, or you can go to kundalinisafeties.org, I believe. Is it .org, Amelia? Is it .com? .com. kundalinisafeties.com, and you'll see a donate button down there. And go ahead and feel free to make the donation that allows us to do this work, to continue this work. And any donation is much appreciated. And thank you very much for even considering it. And do you have any last words, Amelia?
No, Chrism, but I will see everybody next week before I have the break. So thank you very much.
Yes, well, look forward to seeing you next week. And Joey and Rosemary and everybody in the chat room, thank you, everyone, for listening in the archives, the future people. You can also look at some videos, about 300 videos, at Chrism.Kundalini on YouTube. You can go to the Yahoo channel, and you can go to Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at yahoogroups.com. And you can also, of course, reach us on Facebook, Kundalini Awakening ! Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3, Kundalini People, Kundalini Healing. We have a very large footprint on Facebook, and I invite you all to participate in those communities. And I will go ahead and end this the way we began. And here we are.